Hey guys, welcome to Redneck Off the Range. Today I want to do a review of my Makita 18V Multitool. Now, the Multitool is one of those tools that you kind of look at and you think to yourself, am I ever really going to use that? You know, maybe it would be handy here or there, but am I ever really going to use it? Can I ever really justify the purchase of a multi-tool? And I thought myself that same thing, but I bit the bullet and I ended up buying one on a 4th of July sale a couple of years ago at Home Depot, where you get a free tool if you bought a 4 amp hour battery and a charger. So basically you get half of what you're buying for free. So I thought that was cool, and I decided to go with the multi-tool because I already had a circular saw and a reciprocating saw, so this was the only tool I didn't have already. So I decided to go with this one, and let me tell you, this has gotten me out of a pinch a time or two. I've used it for things that you probably shouldn't use this kind of tool for. I'll explain that in a minute. And I've used it for all kinds of other things in our basement project and at work. And it's come in quite handy. Now, technically this was bought as a tool only, even though I got a battery and a charger with it. It was separate. So I got it as a tool only, and really the only two things you get is, well, actually you get a couple other things that I don't have here. But you get the tool, and you'll get a one wood blade. It looks kind of like this. It's not this one, but it is this type of blade. Obviously this one's been used quite a bit, and the original one that came with it has been used quite a bit, and in fact I've worn it out and threw it away. And it also comes with a couple adapters, because multi-tools, unlike, you know, drills and impacts and saws, they're not exactly, there's no industry standard for how the blades actually go on. Some brands use a different system than other brands, and so that requires tools like this to come with adapters to be able to use a wide variety of blades. So it did come with 2 adapters. They're downstairs somewhere. I've never had a need to use them, because most blades will be able to be used with this tool without the adapters, at least all the ones that I've ever bought. So it did not come with any of these other, actually didn't come with any of these blades. I've bought all these blades separately, but what you can use this type of a tool for is you can use it to cut wood, cut drywall, cut PVC, cut metal. You can use it to pry, like this is a scraper. You can use it to pry out like door jambs, and use it to take out windows, to replace windows, and you can use it to sand with. And the reason you can do all these things is because this is an oscillating multi-tool. What that means is it basically, the little head here, it takes it and it just oscillates just back and forth just a few degrees, and that little oscillating or vibrating motion allows the blades to go just that much, and it allows it to cut with a little bit of pressure, cut into just about anything you can think of with the right blade. Mainly I use this for cutting wood and drywall. So what I've personally used this for is in our basement project. Where we live, we're required to have a fire stop along the exterior walls. Basically anywhere between the wall, like the concrete wall and the studs, where you can stick your hand up in between there, you have to have some kind of a fire stop, and traditionally people use drywall, and that's what we use. So you put the drywall up first, and then you put your studs in underneath that. And so you take this with this blade, this is the blade that we use, and you just take it and you cut it flush with the wall. You can also use this for cutting out doors and cut out the drywall for the doors. We actually used a cutout tool to do most of that, but we used this to cut it flush. And I've also used this to notch out wood, to cut off shims. At work, I use it to cut open crates. So we have these big metal crates come in, and I use the angle grinder to cut the metal, and I use this to cut the wood. Now, this does cut metal with the right blade, and you can use it to cut metal, but in my experience cutting the metal in those crates, with the very cheap blade that I had, it just kind of destroyed the teeth on it, and it didn't, it got like half an inch in, and it was done. And, like I said, that was a really cheap blade, but that kind of made me want to buy an angle grinder. So, mainly metal-wise, what I would consider cutting with this would be just like nails, a nail that kind of like sticks out of a board. This would work for that. Again, with the right blade, all I have are wood blades. But if you get a metal blade, you can cut nails, you can cut, small bits of metal. But if you're going to do a lot of metal cutting, I would just go with an angle grinder. That's just what I would suggest. So like I said, this is a scraper. This would be good for scraping up, prying up tile or door jambs, window jambs, things like that. I've never had a need to use it. I'm sure a lot of people do use it, but I got this as kind of a kit, and this is the only one I haven't used yet. This is a round wood blade on here. I got this one from Harbor Freight, I think. It works pretty good. It wasn't big enough for the drywall that I needed. Like when you stick it up, it was like just short enough to where it would only get to the paper on the back side of the drywall, so I ended up not using it for that, but I do use it to cut open the wood crates. The having a rounded blade makes it a little bit easier because you have more surface area on the blade to actually cut with. Sorry, losing my voice here a little bit. And this is a sanding head. It's basically, you put it on here, so if you've never seen one of these used before, the Makita anyway, the way you change the blades or the heads on these is you take this little lever, you pull it all the way back, like that. You pull the blade off, and then you have this little screw looking thing, and the sanding head's a little bit more challenging just because of how it's designed, but you just put it on there, and there's these little I don't know what you call these, like these little fingers that stick out on the bottom here, and that corresponds to little grooves on the blades themselves. And all of these have basically the same pattern, and you just stick it on there. And then you flip your lever back over, and it's good to go. And this is kind of like a little iron. Now, I have used this for some light sanding. I would suggest if you're going to do a lot of sanding, that you get yourself a designated sander, like a palm sander or an random orbital sander, I think is what it's called. Something more compact that you have in the palm of your hand versus something really long like this. This works for light jobs, but it's a little awkward. You have a lot of weight, it's very long, it's not ideal. And in fact, a multi-tool in a lot of applications is not the most ideal tool that you can have, but it covers a lot of different areas that you can use it for, and that's what makes it so great. So you can have a multi-tool in your tool kit, your tool arsenal, and take it out on many job sites, and it can fill a lot of different roles and could save you in a pinch if you don't have a specific tool that would work maybe better than a multi-tool, but you just don't have it and you have a multi-tool and this will get you out of a pinch. That's happened to me a couple of times. I just didn't have a better tool. Now, some more things about this tool itself is it has 6 settings. So you have a little wheel here and it starts at 1 and it goes all the way up to 6. It's very dirty because I've used this for a lot of drywall work, but you have a little switch here that you just push forward, just like the angle grinder that I have. And you just push it forward, and that's what it sounds like at 1. And then as you go up, obviously it goes faster. All the way up until 6. And honestly, I've never taken it out of 6. I've never seen a reason to take it out of 6, but you do have lower settings if you require it. There is no light, so older versions of this tool had a light. They changed it to a toolless blade change, and with the system, with this lever here, that's where the light would have been, so they had to cut out the light. There is a new brushless version, I think, which they didn't have when I bought this tool, but I think that might have a light. I'm not 100% sure. This tool also has that star technology, so if you look at the Makita batteries, there's a little star down here, and that just basically means that it protects itself from overheating. So there's, next to the dial, there's a little light, and it actually flashes red. If you use this tool to the point where it starts to overheat, it'll cut itself off. That way it doesn't fry itself, which is a nice feature. I've actually had that happen to me before. I used this tool with the original blade that came with it, so one of the straight wood blades like this, and I was using it to cut off a bunch of little tree stumps flush with the ground. By little tree stumps, I mean like you're talking 1 inch, 2 inch in diameter trees. We cut out a bunch of little persimmon trees at the farm, and the stumps, you know, they stick up like this, and it's really hard to get them flush with the loppers and the reciprocating saw. So I tried this, and it worked, but it was a lot of work for the tool to actually do all that, and once I was like 3 or 4 stumps in, it just cut itself off because it was starting to get really hot, and it just cut itself off. And I had to wait for it to cool down to try it again. And it just, you know, it wasn't the best tool to use for that. It's not really designed for that application, but it worked. But I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. But that star technology saved the tool from overheating. So if you ever get to that point like I did, you're not going to fry your tool. But again, this is a brush. This is the brushed version of this tool, and you know, everybody says that brushed tools, they wear out faster. I don't know if I'll ever use this enough to wear it out to justify upgrading to the brushless version of the tool, which is obviously going to be more expensive. But I have used this a ton. I've never had a problem with it other than, you know, that overheating incident that I was just talking about. Everything else that I've used this for, well, except for the metal, which I decided not to use it for metal after that. But everything else that I've used it for, it's been perfectly fine. It's been a really good tool. And I've probably had it for about 2 years, and actually probably a little more than 2 years. But I've used it a ton. I love this tool, and I see myself using it a ton in the future. So if you're curious about a multi-tool, check out the Makita. They're called oscillating multi-tools. Pretty much everybody makes them now, even though they're a fairly new concept. But I mean, you can get them from Milwaukee, DeWalt, you know, all the other smaller brands also have them. There are some features on this tool that may not be as good as other tools, but I personally never had a problem with this one, and I don't see a reason to try to go to any other brand of multi-tool. So that's all for that review. Subscribe to my channel, and until next time. be safe.